Hello, this is Tim Campbell with Action Coach Business Coaching with my Survive and Thrive Business Spotlight series. The purpose is to interview local business owners to help get the word out about them through my social channels and my email database. This is a free service I'm providing because my philosophy is if we save every business, we save the economy. So today I have the distinct pleasure of talking with Shawna. Welcome, Shawna. It's great to have you join me today.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate you having me.
Wonderful. Well, let's jump in. Let's get started here. Tell me first a little bit about yourself and your business.
So I'm Shawna Lake. I'm a human resources consultant, and my business is called Deep End Talent Strategies, like the deep end of a pool. Because sometimes, while it's dark and overwhelming when you're in the deep end, I also am a firm believer that that's where you have the most space to maneuver and be creative.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And how long have you been in business?
My business is a baby. We just started in January of 2020, right in perfect time to launch during a pandemic. It's been an adventure. And, I started with the mission of working with small businesses, and that hasn't changed. I originally targeted those under 50 employees who don't need or want a full-time HR director. And I have found that there are some people in that 50 to 75 or 100 space who may have somebody who does payroll and benefits administration, which is great because I don't need to do that much more than absolutely necessary. And that frees me up to do the talent management, performance management, the employee relations issues, and some of the more strategic work. So that's been really exciting. And then I also had this vision of working half of the time with individuals, career coaching and job seeking services, resume writing. And boy, did that come in handy when millions of people found themselves unexpectedly in the job market. So while not everything played out the way I expected, spending my time about 50% of the time with businesses and 50% of the time with individuals has proven to be a good formula. It also allows me to keep each side connected to what each other needs and wants in today's job market.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on your new business and also being able to have a couple different angles to get through all this craziness. So,
Thank
to
you.
that point, tell me a little bit, how has the COVID-19 affected your business? What's been the greatest impact?
Some of the scope of the conversations have been much different than I anticipated. If you would have asked me in January what I would be doing in June, I probably would have told you revamping performance management structures or doing recruiting or training or team development. I probably wouldn't have told you that I would be advising people on how to spend their government loan money to have it be forgiven, and how to have a conversation with employees who don't want to come back to work because they make more money on unemployment right now. So the nature of the conversations has certainly shifted, but I am glad that I'm here to be a resource for them, to be a trusted thought partner for those small business owners. And not everything has been negative about the pivots that we've needed to make as a result of the pandemic. I am an introvert, and doing business development and getting out and meeting new people is not inside of my comfort zone. I struggle sometimes the first couple of months of my business to make cold calls or talk to people that I hadn't spoken to in a long time and find a reason to introduce my services. And this has given kind of that natural in because people have real, tangible issues about workplace distancing and cleaning and payroll and benefits and some of the tactical aspects of our physical workspace and people's well-being, and then some of the strategic aspects as well. So I have had no shortage of topics of conversation with clients and potential clients.
So as an introvert, working from Zoom is a great friend of yours, I would assume.
It's much more comfortable. It's also, I think it really, for efficiency and effectiveness, while you lose some of that interpersonal communication when you're face to face, I can schedule things back to back, and I can pack a lot more into a day. I was on a call earlier today where we were lamenting the fact a little bit that as we start having more in-person meetings with clients or with networking groups, et cetera, that we won't be able to get as much done. We'll have to bake in travel time and things like that.
Isn't it interesting that before the crisis, our only two options were a phone call or meet in person? And now all of a sudden Zoom's opened up. And it's like, wow, why didn't we all think of that before? We would have saved so much drive time and coffee time, right?
Yeah, I was using Zoom in my business early on for individual career coaching. We would do mock interviews and I would tape them, and I have clients from all over the country. It's just not feasible to meet them in person, but I wasn't using it for my business side, for that business to business side. And now it doesn't seem strange at all to say, would you like to have a Zoom call, on Thursday at 2 o'clock?
For sure. So what one or two actions have you taken to make a difference in your business during this time, and how are those working for you?
I think we've all done a lot to try to be helpful, be a resource to one another in small businesses. The first week of the pandemic, there's a local chamber of commerce that I'm a member of that asked me if I would do a webinar and help people understand the Families First Coronavirus Response Act and some of those implications for small businesses that aren't otherwise subject to the Family and Medical Leave Act, and now all of a sudden had some compliance responsibilities. And so I said, absolutely, put together a presentation. It led into a series of conversations over several months with businesses, and was able to take the common themes that I was hearing as I talked to either small businesses or nonprofits or even larger organizations. And I started compiling them and putting them into different categories. And I built a video series. It's on YouTube. You can connect through my website in multiple places. And I followed Maslow's hierarchy. And I kind of have leaders think about, certainly there's whether you want to take your temperature of your employees and wearing PPE, but going deeper to understand that when you expect your employees to go back to work, for example, they may still have childcare issues. Their daycares and schools may still be closed. So helping people think about many other issues that are underlying the employees' mental health when they're thinking about going to work, even their financial health. There's a delay in payroll, for example. So you may have somebody who comes back to work and they still don't have reliable transportation because they're not going to get their first paycheck for 2 or 3 weeks. And so I've put together a bunch of, there's 5 short videos covering a lot of topics. Again, they're free on YouTube. They're on my website. And I created a COVID-19 employer resources section of my website to just get this information out there and help people think about a lot of topics. There are a lot of other people who have put out checklists and things for you to think about related to cleaning and social distancing. And I tried to take more of an employee angle and help leaders put themselves in the shoes of their employees.
Fantastic. Wonderful. We know that during this time, as business owners, we've got to think differently and certainly, pivot. So have you had the opportunity to go through any type of a pivot strategy session?
I have been through a few of them with other leaders thinking about how are we helping other businesses. I have had a couple of clients that have had some interesting questions. I have a client that owns a series of mental health practices. They're not local. They have always allowed their employees to self-schedule, to have their therapists particularly schedule clients whenever it's convenient, mutually convenient for the therapist and the client. And that's often nights and weekends. And they'd always seen that as kind of a win-win, that they felt like it was a service to the client. It gave the therapist a good work-life balance. They never had any quotas or scheduling requirements and didn't think it was necessary. But now all of a sudden that their therapists are doing telehealth and they're working remotely from home with additional child issues, daycare issues, most of them are scheduling less, which is drastically impacting the revenue of the business. So we had a conversation about when's the right time to introduce some quotas and some minimums. We want to be sensitive to the challenges that everybody has right now. We don't want to pull the rug out from underneath anyone, but at some point we're going to have to reset expectations. We're going to have to set some new rules. So those are interesting conversations. People are thinking about the future, thinking we're going to have to work differently. But when do we introduce that? How do we use empathy and try to give people some grace right now, but know that it can't be business as usual?
For sure. I offer free pivot sessions for business owners to just think through things like that. So on another call, maybe we can dig into that a little bit more and talk about your business. So, hey, here's an interesting question. It's been said, smart people learn from their mistakes and wise people learn from the mistakes of others. What mistakes did you make along the way, and how can other entrepreneurs learn from your experience?
It's interesting. When I started my business, because I mentioned I work with small businesses for HR consulting, but then I also have this individual side. So I have business to business services and I have business to consumer services. And when I started introducing my business and having coffee and lunch, back when we used to be able to do that in person, I would talk to people that I'd known for years and some people I had just met. And most of them would say, give me your elevator pitch. What do you do? Who are your ideal clients? And I found myself struggling to succinctly answer that question because I serve these two populations. And I also wanted to make sure that people knew that I have 23 years of experience, that there really isn't any topic of human resources I haven't covered and that I couldn't help them through. But that wasn't really the question people were asking. So I got some very good advice about, it's okay that you could solve all of their problems, but figure out the one that's the thing they really need. Once you've fixed that problem, then say, oh, now I can also revamp your performance management system. So I had some very good advice about not trying to overwhelm people with everything that I could do,
Wonderful.
and just saying the one or two things and then just shutting up.
Yes, yes.
But then I balance that then, because some of the same people that I really admire and I respect their opinion, they said, you can't be both. You can't do business to business and business to consumer. You need to pick one and focus. And I really don't think that advice is appropriate for my business. I believe that one of my unique values is that I work with both and I can keep them both connected in the job market. And I don't want to lose that. So while I have a lot of people that I admire and I had some really good advice, I also would tell other entrepreneurs that you have to take that and then match it up with your own vision and your goals. And nobody else has the recipe that's going to work for you.
Yeah. We work with a lot of folks who struggle with those same challenges of, what is your unique selling proposition? How do you articulate it, right? Whether it's a 30-second elevator pitch or a 60-second or an email, right? And then your target audience, as you talked about, right, is if we try to be all things to all people, we end up being nothing to anybody. But I
Yes.
like what you said, is it doesn't mean we have to narrow into only one thing. It's more important from a marketing standpoint, right, that we're putting one succinct message out in each of the activities that we're doing. But it's okay to have multiple targets. You just don't try to communicate to both of them right in the same piece. So I
Yes.
like that learning, and I'm happy to hear that you've gotten that aha moment so quickly, so new into your business, because many people struggle with that for years, right, and then wonder why their marketing's not working. Right? You hear a lot of times that 80% of marketing doesn't work, and really what's happening is that 80% of the time people aren't following best practices, and it's the execution that's not working, not the marketing that's not working. So congratulations on figuring that out so quickly.
Thank you.
So second to last question here. I've got your email and your website and your phone number to include in this post. Is there anything else that we should add about you or your business, or a special offer, or anything that you'd like to offer the folks who watch this?
Yes, I will send you a link that you can share with everybody watching to schedule a free 30-minute consultation with me, whether that's to talk about a particular HR issue that they might be dealing with, or if someone's in that job search phase, maybe they're somebody who's been impacted by the pandemic. I'm happy to take a look at their resume, help them strategize their job search process, do some interview prep, however they'd like to use that 30 minutes, but I'm happy to give that time away.
Fantastic. Thank you for your generosity. Last question here is, tell me what is most inspiring to you today?
I think what I find inspiring is a bit ironic in that over the last few years, but really in the probably 9, 10 months leading up to our current situation, there was so much momentum about how do we move to a 4-day work week? And how do we get leaders to be open minded to telework and to think about their candidate pool as anybody with a computer wherever they are and willing to work in a certain time zone? And so many leaders, we're kind of stuck in this mindset that if I can't see you work, how do I trust you're actually getting it done? And we weren't. I can't say we were successful in really changing hearts and minds in a methodical way. We just thrust everybody into this situation that if you wanted to keep people working and you wanted to continue serving your customers, you needed to allow people the flexibility. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed that I don't get a lot of email responses on Mondays anymore. I feel like we have moved more to a 4-day work week, but I also think people are working later into the evening. They're checking email and they're on. I see a lot of people on like LinkedIn, for example, on Saturdays and Sundays that used to just be a Monday through Friday, at least in my network, primarily a Monday through Friday tool. So I think it's inspiring that no matter how we got here, we're in a place where we're starting to trust that our employees can meet their obligations, exceed expectations in many cases, and continue to serve our customers from whenever and however they need to do that to also balance the other demands in their life. And I've been advocating for that for about 2 decades now, and so I'm excited that we've arrived.
Fantastic. We all are creatures of habit and don't like change, but none of us had a choice in this situation, right?
Right. Right. And I also think we're noticing employee preferences come into play because I have seen a lot of employees who are anxious to get back into the workplace as well. So I think that I'm hoping that when it all shakes out, we have a lot of flexibility in all of the workplaces that can allow that. Obviously, there are many professions where it's not possible, but where it is possible, that we allow people to choose how they work, when they work, and I think we'll actually get a lot of better results and higher engagement.
Fantastic. Well, Shawna, that concludes the interview. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to be posting this on my social media channels, and I will tag you on that. I'm also going to include a link to it in my weekly newsletters that come out on Tuesdays. I'd also like to invite you and those listening to this to take advantage of the free coaching session that I mentioned earlier. We can dig into any of the things that we talked about today. And like you, it's just a way for me to provide value for folks and give back and help folks in any way that I can. So I invite you to take advantage of that. And again, thank you so much for your time today, Sean. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye bye.